Hey everyone, Infinite Cats here, and well, today's gonna be a different kind of video. I'm joined with a very special guest. Say hi.
Hello, my name's Adam, and today we're gonna talk about Sword and Shield.
Woo!
Yeah.
So, as I said, this is gonna be a different type of video, where nothing's scripted, we're just gonna be talking, because we both got the game, played it a bit, and we have some quite, would you say strong opinions?
Yeah, I would say that.
I mean, I personally had some very strong opinions leading up to the game's launch. I wasn't really excited for them. Like, every other Pokemon game I've got, I couldn't wait until the launch date. But with Sword and Shield, it kind of just came. And it came out, and I bought it. So...
Well, I was definitely excited for those games, but for example, I'm a new Pokemon fan, so those were the first games, apart from Let's Go, Pikachu and Eevee, the new generation games that were coming up, so I was quite excited for them, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of surrounded in the hype for Sun and Moon, but I didn't get my hands on them until Christmas of 2017. So this is the first new generation I've bought at launch. Pretty exciting.
Yay.
Yeah. Alright, so you got the games on launch day, right?
Yes, I did, and I played them on launch day as well.
I got them a few days after launch, so I'd seen a few things online, but I tried to go into these games as open-minded as possible, but also as unaware as possible. So I'm not really well knowledged in much about Sword and Shield. I couldn't list 5 Pokemon from Galar at the moment. I'm awful at names.
Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah, but I was actually, so far I've been pleasantly surprised. Surprised by Sword and Shield. I didn't expect much from them. I went in with quite low expectations, and they've definitely met them.
But have they surpassed them?
I don't know. I'm very split over Sword and Shield at the moment. There's a lot of things I really like about the game. At the same time, there's a lot of they're not huge flaws, but they're just annoyances that, I wish Game Freak could have improved on, or, stuff that I wish they could have added.
Yeah, that makes sense. So would you like to go over some of those flaws?
Well, let's start with the positives, I guess.
Yeah, sure. Let's keep it positive.
So, the game's definitely the graphics everybody's been talking about. Because I've really only played these games in handheld so far, so I can't say what they look like on a TV. But I've been pleasantly surprised. Apart from the trees in the wild area, everything has looked really nice. And obviously the games, they're so much more detailed than the DS ones.
Well, yeah, it's a Nintendo Switch. It's a home console, so it can hold more information for the data for the graphics. So they're gonna look better, and they did meet those expectations of having really good graphics throughout the region. So I'm quite surprised for that.
They still feel very Pokemon-y though. The graphic style hasn't differed that much from Gen 6 to Gen 8. They feel very the same style. It's just up-resed with more detail.
I think Pokemon games really do need a Breath of the Wild treatment because the contrast between Breath of the Wild and, for example, whatever the previous Legend of Zelda game was, they were really, they differed so much. So I think that Pokemon really needs that kind of...
How can you say that when you don't even know what the game before Breath of the Wild was?
I don't know. I don't play Legend of Zelda.
Yeah, I gathered.
Oh. Continue.
So, I think think one of my main issues with Sword and Shield is they feel quite restrictive and quite linear. Like, the towns, they still feel quite empty, like there isn't much you can do in them. And you've got a very specific, like, path you have to take through the game. Like, some places, they won't even allow you, like, you know, into a Pokemon Center until you talk to this character. And it's like, I feel, because you've got the wild area, which is like this huge expanse that you can explore, catch Pokemon. I think once I heard that was in the game, I expected everything about it to be a little more open and a little more, like, less hand-holdy than other Pokemon games. But that really isn't the case. They feel very, like, samey in structure to every other game in the series.
I didn't notice that because I kind of actually just rushed through the town because to get on with the game, but they have Pokemon centers and the shops, but other than that, they just don't have that much to do in them.
Yeah, I would like to see more interactivity within, like, the towns and stuff. I mean, what is it? Motorstoke it's called, the big one.
The big one is called Motorstoke.
That's got, like, you know, the Battle Cafe and, you know, some other stuff, but you get this huge, like, feeling as you walk in, but there's really not that much to do in it, which really disappointed me. Because it was a bit like Lumio City in X and Y. It's this huge city, but only, like, 1/20th of the buildings you can actually walk into. You'd have thought, you know, Game Freak would be able to, you know, make a huge city that you can really explore on, you know, a game in the Switch, which kind of disappointed me, but it's not too big a deal, not a game breaker.
It's not that big of a flaw, so it's just that if more buildings were interactive, then of course that would make the whole city look more alive, but well, we can wish.
Because I feel settlements in Pokemon don't really have, like, a settlement feeling, because, you know, if you're in an actual city, you know, you'd see people going, like, you know, through their everyday lives, but, you know, everything's really empty, you know, all the roads in Pokemon, and they don't really give, you know, that genuine feel, if that makes sense.
But isn't that for every Pokemon game, or is it just this game?
For every Pokemon game, but on a, you know, a DS where the hardware's a lot more limited, you know, that's more understandable. But on the Switch, you know, when you've got games, you know, Mario Odyssey and Zelda, you know, I just expected a bit more, especially from, you know, the level of detail.
Yeah, but, well, maybe the next Pokemon games, if there are next Pokemon games, then maybe they can add that, but
yeah,
we shall see.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think Game Freak took a step in the right direction. These games, they definitely feel so much better than Let's Go. They're definitely a tried and true Pokemon game.
But do you think they're doing it kind of too slow? Should they do it a bit quicker with the developments and the improvements, or should they keep at the same pace they're going in right now?
I mean, when you say doing it too slow, I mean, you know, they should take much longer to develop the game.
Yes.
I think Sword and Shield could have benefited so much from another half year or year of development.
But I guess they have to have a game on release every year.
Yeah, which, you know, it saddens me. You know, series like Call of Duty, you know, they have yearly releases, and people, you know, say, oh, I hate it, you know, oversaturation, blah blah blah, and it's getting that way with Pokemon. I feel like Game Freak used to be able to, you know, get these yearly releases out and produce really good quality games, but that was because, you know, they were on the DS, which was much more limited. But now it's on the Switch, like, you can't develop a Switch game, you know, in the time it took.
Well, let's hope that they'll skip 2020 out, and then they'll produce an amazing game that will blow us out the park. But, well,
I mean,
what can you say?
You can always hope, don't you?
Obviously. So, what else should we have a discussion about? Got anything in mind?
I mean, there's so much we could talk about Sword and Shield. What about the story?
I think I have to agree with the people, well, most people that play the game, that the story is not that great.
You see, I haven't played through it yet, but from what I've seen so far, there's literally been no story.
That's because the story reaches like its climax part quite late. So
I mean, every story does that. But I mean, you know, you've got other games that feel a lot more, you know, the story intertwines very early on. But in these games, it's not like that at all. It's just like, oh, you've got this gym challenge, and like, there's no real conflict from. I'm up to the 3rd gym in these games, and like, there's just no conflict. Like, I don't feel like I'm fighting for anything or fighting against anything. And in other games, like, that's not the case. You know, like Gem 5, for example. You know, Team Plasma introduced very early on, and it just builds, you know, from the beginning, and you do get that feeling of the story throughout the game. I mean, obviously, you've essentially beaten the game. So, what are your thoughts on this?
When it comes to the evil team part, the evil team, unfortunately, is not intimidating whatsoever, in my honest opinion. Whereas in the other games, like Team Plasma, Team Galactic, and Team Flare, they have a strong presence about them. They're clearly evil, but like Team Skull was intimidating because they obviously like stole Pokemon and stuff. But these guys, Team Yell, they are not that intimidating. They're just kind of goofy.
But then you've got, you know, Sun and Moon. You know, it was actually, you know, Luzamine was, you know, the real villain in those games, and like she had that really intimidating factor about her, because like she was kind of unexpected. You know, like I've met when I played through the games, I wasn't really looking for hints, so I didn't realise until a little later on.
Yeah.
But Team
Continue.
Yell, from, you know, what I've seen, they're just not intimidating. They don't seem to have that factor that other teams do. It feels like they've just been kind of slapped in at the last minute without much thought going into, you know, where they're placed in the story.
Yeah, but I think Team Yell does have a positive purpose at the end. It turns out, so it's that they have that twist. But other than that, until they get to that twist, they're not that fantastic.
What, a bit like Team Flare in X and Y? Or who do you say is the better team, Flare or Yao?
I think, in my honest opinion, I believe Team Flare is the better team.
That's not saying a lot.
Unfortunately, yeah, but I still quite like Team Yell. It's not a horrible team. I still I still like them, but I think I just prefer most of the evil teams in the previous games more.
I do think the concept of, you know, this like evil team is a little outdated. I feel like,
So do you think,
you know, they could do something new with it? Because like, why does it have to be this, you know, like huge organization? Why couldn't it be more just like, you know, one person, or, you know, something that's not exactly, you know, a human being?
I don't know. Maybe they'll do something like that, but
I don't know. I mean, Game Freak seem pretty certain on keeping with this one formula, because it works.
And they did it since the start.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for nostalgia, but when you're using the same formula from a game from 1996, maybe it's time to, you know, revitalise it a little bit.
But for Game Freak, I think it's kind of like mandatory to have that team for evil team for every region, but well, I think they won't change it anytime soon. I think that they'll just keep going with that.
I mean,
Which
I had this really interesting like thought for the Janet games before like they revealed or anything. So I had this idea that like it was like kind of an evil team, but there was one person and they made like robots to like, you know, do their wishes, so it was all powered by one person. If you know what I mean.
yeah, that seems like that sounds like a much original idea.
I mean, it's also the fact that every, you know, Team Yelgron looks the same. Because there's something about having two identical models standing in the back of a double battle, doing the exact same animation, that kind of feels a bit cheap.
Would you say that's cheap?
I mean, they've literally just copied and pasted the model, so...
So would you like more variety? Is what you're trying to get at?
Yeah, make, like, you know, every trainer feel a little bit different. You know, bring some more life into these games.
Yeah.
You know, that doubles back to what I said about interactivity. Because the game's world doesn't feel too alive. You know, it's very the same throughout. You know, you've got grass, you've got some trees. But, you know, but ultimately, you can't go that far off the path. You have to stay, you know, on this place. You can't go into the distance and see all of this. You know, where you can actually go is very limited. But you do get this feel of an open world. But, you know, obviously there's the wild area. And I can't praise, you know, the wild area enough. It's a really good concept for Pokemon. I just wish the whole game was like that.
You know, about the camera mechanic, because I was excited when they revealed that the camera mechanic, when they showed it when they showed it in the treehouse, then the camera moves, and I was so excited for that because Pokemon never had that. It was always a
fixed camera.
It was a fixed camera, I mean,
but it made sense for, you know, the DS games. Because they don't have, you know, the 3DS didn't have dual analog sticks, so it only makes sense to have a fixed camera.
But they still kept this fixed camera for majority of the game, except for the wild area.
That's so annoying. I remember getting into the game thinking like it'd be, you know, free camera throughout, and then I just moved the R stick and nothing happened. I was like, there's a fixed camera, isn't it? And it just like died a bit inside. I find it so, you know, infuriating that, you know, you want to see something at a better angle, but you just can't because the camera won't go anywhere. But then in the wild area, the camera's pulled so far back that the free camera doesn't even make as much of a difference. Like, why can't, you know, you control the camera freely, you know, zoom it out and in more? You know, that would just make it so much better.
It'll make it much more, you know, alive. But I guess you can only do that in the wild area. And I'm getting kind of upset because of that. So,
I mean,
do you know what else?
Sorry, you go.
Do you know what else kind of infuriates me?
What?
That the experience share has to be...
Yes. My blood is boiling. No, Game Freak. We're not all, like, 5-year-old children. We know how to play a game, and we know how to, you know, swap Pokemon out. I do like, contrary to what a lot of people say, I don't think the EXP share is a bad thing. Like, in X and Y, they gave you this EXP share. You know, it was this item, and, you know, distributes XP to all your Pokemon. Oh, great. But you could turn it off if you wanted. And that's what I did when I played the game. They didn't make X and Y, like, hard, but I had to think a lot more than just, you know, breezing through the game like a lot of people do. But then, when you've got no option to turn the EXP share off, it doesn't feel right, because you don't have to think about training up a Pokemon. It just levels up with the rest of your party.
The XP share was kind of like the thing that made the game either easier, or make it harder for yourself by turning it off.
Yeah,
but this time it just do one setting. The only thing that can make it a bit harder is to get this is to make the battle style set, not switch. But
Even then,
that,
it's
but
not. I mean, there's this argument that people say, oh, do it as a Nuzlocke, do this, do that. And it's like, well, I should be able to play through the game normally, with a team of 6 that I chose, and at least have some sort of challenge.
But the set does give you a little bit of a challenge, but not as much as turning the EXP share off, unfortunately.
No. Or just, making the game harder in general.
Because have you found the game experience quite easy?
Oh, very easy. Like, in older generations, gym battles were actually a challenge. Even in Sun and Moon, the totem Pokemon weren't easy to beat. But, like, the gym battles I've had so far, I just breeze through no issue. And it doesn't feel right.
Yeah. But when you talk about the totem Pokemon, they were hard, but in Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, they made them even harder, which, again, made them more fun to play.
Yeah.
But, the gyms, I don't want to spoil anything for you, but, as of now, when you're at gym, where you're at Gym 3,
Yes.
They are just quite pathetically easy, unfortunately.
How's that spoiling things? I kind of got that idea already.
Yeah, I'm just stating the obvious.
I mean, it feels like gyms get easier as you go through because your team's more diverse. You've got, more ways to deal with Pokemon. At the first gym, if you don't have a type advantage, it can be, quite hard. But, once you get to the 8th gym, you should have a well-rounded team that can just sweep through, whoever you're facing.
That's why I think the gym battle, the gyms should have a Pokemon that a bit higher level than you, or that can keep up.
Yeah. Either that or just a stronger Pokemon in general.
Yeah, I would like the gym battles to, no matter what your Pokemon levels are, to have them a bit higher, like one level higher or the same level.
Oh, so it's like, so say you've got a level 30 Pokemon, like it's their top Pokemon's like level 32. If you've got a level 32 Pokemon, their top Pokemon's level 34.
Yeah, so it changes depending on your party.
Yeah, that'd be cool actually.
But will it happen? No.
Probably not. Game Freak do seem quite focused on making Pokemon as accessible as possible. Which
even then,
I get, but at the same time, they made Pokemon very accessible back in the day. But it was still kind of hard.
For example, well, we can talk about the infamous Whitney from
that
Gen 2.
We all have memories of that Pokemon. If we've played Gen 2 or Heart Gold, Soul Silver.
You cannot imagine the frustration and the patience I had to go through when facing that Miltank. It was just.
But challenge in a game's not a bad thing. Beating that hard trainer that you've struggled with is the best feeling ever. You get no satisfaction from breezing through 8 gyms. There's nothing wrong with the challenge.
So why make it so easy?
As I said, accessibility. Game Freak, wants children to come into the game. But I see, a child having no issues, running through a game, that tells them type advantages. Like, when I went into Pokemon, I knew nothing about it, and, I wouldn't say I found it easy, but I had a bit of a challenge. But, that challenge, it was really satisfying to overcome, and as I learned stuff about the game as I went through it, I grew more confident, and it was a good experience.
Yeah. What was I supposed to say? Yeah, you continue while I think.
Okay. I mean, and then there's Dynamaxing, which, I don't know. I was never really hyped about it, but the fact that it's not like a Z move, you know, it's not specific to certain Pokemon, and you know, you can't just use it, you know, in any battle. I think it kind of takes away from the value.
Which I think that's why they added the Gmax, to make some Pokemon have the option to have their own moves, because Gigantamax Pokemon have their own unique moves,
Yeah.
which do unique effects, and they have unique designs as well, which makes them look cooler. But those are only just specific Pokemon.
I mean,
But
aesthetically, I prefer Z-moves. I love the animations and the style of them. But I don't hate, like, the concept of, what's it called? My mind's gone blank.
Dynamaxing?
Dynamax. I just feel like it's not very well implemented into the game, from what I've seen so far, obviously. You kind of just, like, get this stone. It's like, oh, you know, you can Dynamax now. And it's like, cool. But why? You know, what significance does this have? You know, in Sun and Moon, you got your Z bracelet thing off Tapu Koko. And, you know, at least it was interwoven into the story a lot better. And, you know, you had to go around and collect these Z crystals for certain Pokemon to perform Z moves. But then in, you know, Galar, it's just like, yeah, Pokemon can Dynamax. Cool. Fight a gym, Dynamax Pokemon, win. It's a little infuriating.
But this is just another thing that just makes the gym battles, again, much easier, because even if you are going to save the Dynamax to the last Pokemon, if the gym leader has 3, then you can just one-shot everything.
Yeah. I mean, and their Dynamax, like, it's really easy to stall out. Like, you can just, from what I've just done it, you know, with Super Potions. Because their moves don't one-shot me.
They can always set up in the later gyms. I think they do set up. So then it gives you that bit of pressure to start the attack.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good.
I can't remember. Dynamax Pokemon don't get increased defense, do they?
I am not sure. I only know that the HP bar grows, but I'm not sure. I just know that their HP grows, so I have to look into that to know.
Are you actually going to look into it, or?
Maybe after this video is done.
I mean, I'm not really that bothered with, like, you know, the statistics of Dynamaxing or anything. You know, it's not a bad feature. You know, I don't hate that it's there. I just wish it was a little better implemented into these games, and it just gave a bit more.
It could have been amazing, but if it was like, if it was more available, then like Z moves and Megas could be in any circumstances. So why not the Dynamax?
I mean, you know, and Dynamaxing, it does feel a lot more like uninspired. You know, Z moves, you know, they have these cool animations, you know, and then Mega Evolution. You know, the Pokemon, they evolve into, you know, a new Pokemon. You know, and they look really awesome, and, you know, they're powerful. But, you know, in Dynamaxing, they just go bigger. You know, it's not as special, which is just a shame. I wish they'd have done something better with it.
I think that's why Gigantamax exists, because then those certain Pokemon can get the design treatment kind of thing, because they do have differing designs and different moves, so that makes them, you know, stand out a bit more.
Yeah, just sadly they're not as cool as Mega Evolution.
I guess.
I'd be interested to see where, like, the competitive scene takes Dynamaxing, though.
Is it gonna be that? Oh, is it gonna be OP?
I mean, I don't know if they'll allow it or, you know, whatever. Because obviously Mega Evolution was quite an issue. You know, because you had Pokemon, you know, like Mega Kangaskhan, you know, that had to be relegated to Ubers because they were just really OP.
And of course we have the infamous Mega Rayquaza.
Yeah, we don't talk about that.
No, that doesn't exist for us.
Pokemon Showdown, anything goes. Literally just dominated by Mega Rayquazas and Primal Groudons.
That I guess that's a plus from Auras. But like, those are just powerhouses. Everybody, like, you should get one if you're playing Pokemon Showdown. If you're going to anything goes, absolutely.
I mean, I don't think I've really seen, that, like, OP Pokemon yet from Gen 8. The legendaries don't seem very, like, yeah, they're powerful, but they're not, like, OP.
I've actually watched some videos on YouTube that analyzed all of the Pokemon competitively, and there's a few standouts for sure.
Yeah, I mean every generation has a standout.
They do, but on the whole, I think the roster for this game hasn't been that strong compared to the other gens.
Yeah.
Because there's a few powerhouses for sure. There's some amazing Pokemon that are probably gonna dominate the next OU. But some of them have been like they're probably gonna end up in like NU, PU stuff.
I mean, what is gonna happen to battling? Because obviously half the Pokemon isn't in Sword and Shield.
When it do you mean like Pokemon Showdown and stuff?
No, I mean actually playing in tournaments and stuff. Because they usually use the the latest games. But are people just going to have to, make their teams in Sword and Shield, fresh and new? Just forget about, everything that happened in Gen 7 and before? I'm not that into competitive battling. I used to be quite a bit, but I've kind of faded out now. I think it's going to be interesting, how the scene's going to go forward. Because there's a lot of Pokemon, that were loved that just aren't in, Sword and Shield.
Basically, most legendaries. Yeah.
What do you think about, the cutting of the National Dex?
Personally, I'm not that affected by it because I don't have Pokemon Bank because that costs money.
Yeah.
So do the Pokemon games. So.
Do you think it should have definitely?
That affects me that much because I always use what was available to me, what was presented to me on the platter. But I can understand why people would get really upset because of it. For example, they would transfer old mons from previous games to the new game and then use them there. But they can't do that now because obviously they have been cut. So I get why most people are infuriated by that, but personally, I'm not that affected by that.
I think there's something, special about taking a Pokemon, from Ruby and Sapphire, which were from 2003, and then moving them, all the way up to Ultra Sun and Moon from 2017. That's still, your Pokemon from, that Game Boy Advance game. And, there is a special feeling around that. And then, these Pokemon being essentially trapped on the, 3DS now, they can't go into Sword and Shield. I think it's really sad. And there's a lot of Pokemon that I wish I could transfer up to my Sword and Shield that I can't.
Because they're not in the Galadex.
It doesn't, anger me. I'm just a bit disappointed. I don't see why Game Freak couldn't have, made every Pokemon for the game. Or at least if they couldn't work out, getting Pokemon from the DS to the Switch, they could have at least coded every Pokemon into the game. Maybe, for preparation or, just put them all, in the wild area or something.
They will most likely they will put the they'll put Pokemon Bank available for Sword and Shield later, but I don't think they'll do it on release.
I mean, they haven't, so.
They haven't done it on release.
It's Pokemon Home, it's called, right?
Yeah. I think the Pokemon Home is not out yet, and if I'm not sure.
No, I think as I said, it doesn't affect me too much, but, Game Freak, the excuses they made weren't brilliant. We had to remake these models, but, they're basically the same models from Gen 7. They're not brilliant. They don't look bad. They just don't have a lot of life to them.
Especially the moves that they have, they're the same as...
They look really outdated.
I mean...
It's definitely a shame, because I feel like these games had so much potential, and they probably started off as, like, this huge, ambitious project, but then, probably time cuts, made them, have to cut back and not, make this game that they probably really wanted to make.
I think this game was basically a development rush, because they've already planned all those events, like the new merchandise and the BGC and stuff. So they just couldn't delay it, because then that would be really inconvenient for the other things.
I mean, personally, I just wish they hadn't made Let's Go and put all that effort into Sword and Shield. I feel like if they hadn't made Let's Go, like, how good could Sword and Shield have been?
But but they did make Let's Go, and those games are unfortunately a bit lackluster. But I don't think they are majorly lackluster. Just some tweaks in the games could have made it so much better than it is.
They're not bad. They're just not for me. They're not the Kanto remake I think people wanted. But to be honest, a lot of people just didn't want a Kanto remake. They wanted a Sinnoh remake. Which
I pray that it's coming, because I never played the Sinnoh games.
You know what? I actually don't. I don't care for remakes. I think, especially Platinum, is a perfect game as it is, and it doesn't need remade. Like, I don't get Game Freak's obsession with remaking the older games. I maybe get Gens 1 and Gen 2, but, why, especially the DS games, like, who doesn't own a DS? Anybody can buy, Gen 4 and upwards, and, play the games, and what needs to be remade. I think if they really wanted to remake Diamond and Pearl, they would have to drastically change a lot of things that held those games back. I don't know, it's not something I really care about. Because I definitely prefer Gen 3 to Oras. I just think, for the time, they're better games, and Oras wasn't amazing. And I just thought the Game Freak put all their creativity into a brand new game rather than a remake.
I think, well, it's going to be kind of expected, because they do that quite a lot. Well, not with X and Y, but they're probably going to make a better version of the Gala region.
Yeah. I think they'll either make that or a remake.
Which hopefully is like the black to white and white, the black and white 2.
That'd be amazing. I doubt it would be, though. I mean, because obviously, people are very split on these games. So I feel like Game Freak would want to take that opportunity and go, right, we can fix this. Just pay full price for the game you've already played.
But do you think the price of Black 2 and White 2 is worth it?
Yeah, because they're completely different games. They may be set in the same region, but it's a different story, different encounter layouts, everything, apart from the region and the Pokemon, are different. But then you have Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, which, you're basically, saying to, pay for the same game, just a bit, updated and with some new features that aren't worth the price of a full game.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of the main issues, that people had with Sun and Moon, they didn't fix in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon.
They just added the new features.
Anyway.
What are you trying to say?
We're getting off topic. I'm going to stop ranting about Ultra Sun and Moon. It's not the point. We're talking about Sword and Shield.
Yeah, let's get back on track. Let's continue with our little discussion. So why don't we talk about the new Pokemon?
Yeah. I mean, I think
So,
they're alright. I don't really hate them. I haven't seen them enough to make them really memorable in my opinion. I don't like the starters. The starters have disappointed me.
uh, I actually don't mind the starters. I think their evolutions are all right, but I think they could have been better, obviously. But on the whole, I think the starters are on an acceptable level, in my opinion. I don't dislike any of them.
I don't dislike them. I'm just a little underwhelmed. I think compared to every other generation, they're just not as good.
I guess you have to just see how they are in the game because you're not there yet where you can see the final evolutions of the starters.
I mean, I've
So-
seen the final evolutions of the starters. I know what they look like. And I picked my starter based off the final evolutions because they're ultimately, the Pokemon I'll be getting.
That does make sense, yeah.
And Slobble's final evolution? Nah, just, I don't really like it. Score
Yeah, I
Bunnies
get-
is
I get-
alright. I like Grookies, that's why I picked Grookie, even though, first stage evolutions, it's my least favourite. I do like its final evolution.
Yeah, I really like Rillaboom. It is really good, in my opinion, and it has a really good signature move as well, which, I mean, if you
Yeah.
in terms of competitive battling, it's again quite good. So, in my opinion, that is a really solid final evolution, and it's not the best out of all of the stars that we have, but it's definitely somewhere maybe high, middle, somewhere like that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm fairly happy with most of the Pokemon from Galar. I don't think any of them at the moment stand out to me that much. No, I really like Yamper. I think Yamper is adorable. No, a lot of them I think they're just nice. But again, I think with Pokemon, you have to play through the game and interact with them. Get to know them before you can really find out your favourites from that generation. And I think just playing through the games really changes your opinion. Because when Gen 7 first came out, I really hated Incineroar. But now I actually do like it. It feels weird, but you get an emotional attachment to Pokemon. Even though, they're just bits of code in a game. They feel like they're yours. Ultimately that's the magic of Pokemon. You play through a game, you build up, this team, you train them, you win battles with them, and ultimately, you bond with them. Which is, why people come back to these games.
Yeah, I agree with what you just said. Well, I don't have anything to add to that because that's just perfect the way you said it anyways, so
Yeah.
what else should I add?
Who knows? I mean, that's the thing with, I think, Sword and Shield. They feel, just very like any other Pokemon game. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I don't think they really blew anyone away. Most people, say, oh yeah, I like these games. They're good, but they're not as good as they could have been. And I think that's my main issue with these games, When they were revealed, I was so hyped up, but then, things have come out about them and it's it feels like Game Freak have, taken some shortcuts to probably get these games, out on release date. But it does, sadden me that Pokemon's such a huge franchise and they can't make, as good a game as, Zelda. What do you have to say?
Yeah, that's it. I'm just listening to your conversation because I think never mind. But definitely they as you said they could have been better. For example, like Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild was just amazing aesthetically. the graphic improvement was stellar. It wasn't similar to the previous at all.
Stop talking about a game you've never played. Just don't even go there.
Okay.
I mean, that actually leads me on to another thing. People are very quick to judge, Pokemon games. It's all right to, have criticisms of a game, but why should you hate something that's not even out yet?
I don't know. It's just people make opinions based on what they see, and if they don't like what they see, they'll probably not like the final product. If they just like the features.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, that's important. But if you're a Pokemon fan, I think Sword and Shield, they have a good time. I think anybody that, likes Pokemon can pick up these games and, really enjoy playing them.
As you said, they are accessible. They're easy to play. It's not difficult to get the mechanics, but I don't know.
Do you want to end it there then?
Yeah, I think we said our thoughts pretty clearly and well, and
Yeah.
I think it's a good time to wrap things up.
Yeah, I'm definitely enjoying these games. There's a lot of, great features about them. I wouldn't say underwhelmed, just a little disappointed that they couldn't have done more.
I guess you just have to wait and see until you finally complete the game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward. I've got my Switch next to me, ready to, continue playing as soon as we stop recording.
Well, I can't blame you. They are very addictive. That's the
I'm
big thing
definitely
about Pokemon.
addicted. You can give any Pokemon game that, you pick it up and you just can't put it down. You have to get to the next gym to find the next Pokemon, just to explore more.
And to, be the best, be the champ, just to be the champion, and see what the region has to offer.
Exactly.
So
we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for listening, if anyone still is. I hope you enjoyed this new type of video. I mean, I certainly enjoyed recording it. So just remember to, like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
bye.